Hi, welcome to episode 62 of Tennis Volley Talk with Brian Danielson. Hey, this week, what I'm going to be doing, it's midweek of the Miami, the second leg of the Miami Sunshine tournaments, Indian Wells and Miami. And I'm going to be kind of covering a little bit of what happened yesterday. This is midweek. And then this weekend is going to be the finals of the tournament. So with that, I'll get in there and there's been some really good tennis being played. It's for the men round of 16 right now that is going. And yesterday, actually, Zverev beat Kazanov 6-1, 6-4. And then Demir lost to Mrazin. And then he lost 4-6. Then 6-0, and then he retired. No, I'm sorry. 6-1 is he beat Demir. And then Alcaraz, Carlos, he actually won over Mazzetti, and he won 6-3, 6-3. So he's been playing very good tennis. And then Gregor Dimitrov, which has really been playing some good tennis. He actually won over Herbert Hurkacz. Now that's a get out right there, and he's really been playing good. Love his one-handed backhand. It really such a nice shot to see. And I'm getting there on mine myself, but getting better at it. So with that, he won 3-6, 6-3, 7-6 in 3 sets. And then Yannick Sinner, he won over O'Connell. And then he won 6-4, 6-3, and Sinner's really been on a tear lately too. So he's been playing very good. And then Nicolas Jarry beat Casper Ruud at 7-6, 6-3, and that's a good out for Jarry beating Casper Ruud. And then Medvedev, he beat Kopler, and he won 7-6, 6-0. So, and Medvedev is always very good player all the way around too. And then Manchek beat Amaldi, and then he won 6-3, 6-3. And then on the women's side, this is going into the quarterfinals. And in the quarterfinal, actually, Elena Rybakina beat Marie Sakkari, and she won 7-5, 6-7, 6-4. And she's really been playing good too with that. She's been not feeling very good in the last month or so. And in Indian Wells, she had been in bed for like 2 weeks and not feeling very good at all. But she ended up beating Sakkari, which is a good accomplishment. And she has a calm manner about her when she plays. Nothing bothers her. She just gets to business and plays her game, and she's a very good tennis player. And then Azarenka beat Putinova, and she won 7-6, 1-6, 6-3. So Azarenka's been playing very well too on that. So with that, and then that's just been a very good tournament. And then, like I said, this weekend will be the finals, and I'll let you know a report of that for my next podcast also. There. So today, actually, what I'm going to be doing is actually talking from a previous couple of podcasts that I had, that I showed a couple of rackets that were done that were early 1900s, that were E I Horsman rackets, and then Karl, which is an E I Horsman part of a researcher in a sense. And what he does is does a lot of research, but what he has for us is really the rest of the story. So without any further hesitation, let's get into that interview.
Hi, and welcome back to Tennis Volley Talk. Today, what I'm going to be doing is an over-the-phone interview with kind of hooking up from a previous episode of a couple of tennis rackets I had that were E I Horsman tennis rackets from early days. And I have a guy right now, Karl. He's works with or has association with E I Horsman, does a lot of research, but not only with maybe a little bit of the tennis, but a little bit later, what you're going to hear is a little bit what they call the rest of the story of E I Horsman. So welcome to the show, Karl, my tennis volley talk.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for inviting me on to talk to you about Horsman.
Yeah, it's really kind of interesting how with this, and I mean back in the day with him being kind of an entrepreneur in a sense when he was growing up, and born in 1843, lived all the way to 1927, so not too awfully bad. And somewhere along the way, he in the early 1880s was kind of manufacturing tennis rackets for E I Horsman, and kind of the interesting aspect of how with the rackets that came about in that era, he in the 1880s and 1892 they had both the flat top and the regular kind of oval racket that he had, and with kind of the Eclipse and the Special and the Seabright and the Casino in Cleveland. Expert models back then, but of course back then, you had the craftsmanship that went into the tennis rackets at that time. For back then.
So my expertise, Brian, is not really on the tennis racket aspect of Horsman. It's on the dolls.
So hence the rest of the story. E I Horsman actually then started making, after they had finished making tennis rackets in the early 1900s, then they went on and they started making dolls. So very interesting story behind that. So let's continue and listen to the rest of the story on how E I Horsman went through the years.
And the reason I'm involved is because I'm with the Trenton City Museum, and the museum through me has put on two exhibits on Horsman, really three. Basically the dolls that were made in Trenton, because they at one time had a doll factory in Trenton, and being the City Museum of the City of Trenton, we were focused on what was made in Trenton. And we currently have an exhibit for the Black History Month, which was February. We did a case on the black dolls that Horsman made. And he made a lot of black dolls, believe it or not, prior to moving to Trenton, as early as around the turn of the century, around 1910. Cloth dolls and so forth. So it's a pretty amazing story. Basically, I followed them basically up to the end of their stay in Trenton, and a little bit about their movement after that.
Okay, all right. And then he was really actually based out of New York. Somewhere about 1865, he opened a toy store there up in New York.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and with the toy store, what he ended up doing, it was really mainly a lot of games that they had at the toy store, and with that too, he actually had invented a camera that like any 10-year-old would be able to use. With that, a self-develop camera, you send it in, and they'll develop the film for you too. So very entrepreneurial kind of a guy back then in the early 1900s.
Notes go on to say that it was around 1910 that began phasing out his other lines of manufacturing, such as the games, etc., probably the tennis rackets, to focus basically on dolls. And he was quite successful. However, it was the Great Depression in the late 1920s, and I believe also probably the death of Horsman, like you said, around 1929,
everything like that. But it's kind of from tennis to the rest of the story that a lot of people just didn't know. But a lot of people now that probably have and collect all the bisque dolls and cloth dolls and probably have an E I Horsman doll of some sort, maybe.
Yeah, there are a lot of dolls out there. You can find them on eBay. And I recently attended a doll club monthly meeting, and a lot of the doll collectors do have some Horsman dolls. I've yet to find anyone exclusively collecting just Horsman.
But yeah, no, with that, a lot of people do. They kind of don't stick to a particular brand of doll, whatever they can get, because that's what they like, the porcelain and the bisque and the cloth dolls. So eventually, one way or the other, they ended up with an E I Horsman doll somewhere in their collection.
So at the museum, that's what we're concentrating on, the Horsman dolls, and the ones that would have been made in Trenton from about 1933 up until 1960. They moved to South Carolina.
Oh, okay. All right. So, but, eventually any one particular, they would probably have a Horsman doll in whatever they collect anyway, which is really kind of an interesting aspect of it, and kind of like I said, the rest of the story as far as that, from moving from the rackets back in the early 1800s, and then going into business with the doll company and opening that and having the success that they had through the Depression, and having that sustain them through the Depression at that time.
Yeah, but that's when they went out of business.
Yeah.
I think there was some deaths there in the family, and the heads of the Horsman company changed. That's when I guess they lost their direction, at least in the doll factory industry. And that's where they almost went broke and out of business until they were bought by Regal.
Okay, Regal.
And Regal was not a top-of-the-line manufacturing company. They were like the lower end, I believe.
And with that being the lower end of the doll making company, they knew that E I Horsman was a little bit more of the mid-range to better. So that's why they ended up buying Horsman to kind of connect with that company that had a little bit better reputation.
And Horsman was more or less the middle end of the doll market. And an example would be that they were not selling to Wanamaker's or to Woolworths, but they mostly manufactured for the catalogs, such as Sears Roebuck and the other company, escapes my mind right now. But they were basically selling dolls from Middle America.
Okay. So for Middle America,
Montgomery Ward was the other catalog that they were producing their dolls for.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. Good old, which I have a couple of old Montgomery Ward tennis rackets too.
Okay.
So, with that too, but
I believe the companies would also maybe put their own names on the dolls, even though Horsman manufactured them.
Okay. So it was kind of like
like the tennis racket.
Yeah, like the tennis racket.
Yeah.
Like the tennis racket, they manufactured them, but in a sense with the rackets, then they had their particular name for each racket then too.
Right.
As far as like some back in the day with the Davis rackets, they had the Imperial Deluxe. So Horsman had the Eclipse Special and the Seabright and the Casino rackets, which were kind of like the aspect of good, better, best kind of a racket if you want it too. So that was kind of, and it probably held true with the dolls too. Was it not right, or did I kind of see that about that whenever E I Horsman was bought out, did eventually the company that bought them, didn't they almost go bankrupt until they decided that E I Horsman had a better facility to go to?
No, I didn't really heard that. I mean, I think the Regal Doll Factory was the largest doll factory in the world, they claimed, definitely in the United States. No, they never almost went out of business with Horsman. They were quite successful, and they realized that Horsman had a better known name, so that's when dog company changed its name to Horseman.
Okay.
And the Regal name faded out.
Okay.
The problem with Horseman, though, was the labor issue.
Okay.
Because of the unions, etc., the employees are making a lot of money, more money than, believe it or not, the dog companies in the New York City area. And a couple times, they almost went out of business. They closed the plant, and it could not survive. The unions had to get concessions to lower the labor costs, which they did, which kept it going. And another sad thing was, at one point in 1950, Horseman decided to modernize and put a conveyor system in the factory to help speed up the process of making the dolls. Sounds great. However, the employees, their money was based upon piecework. So therefore, they made even more money because they could make more dolls per hour with the conveyor system.
Yeah, and back then to actually get the conveyor system to actually then, because it was piecework, then they could make more money making dolls back then. So whatever company did come up with the conveyor system with most any company ended up increasing the production of what they did.
Yeah. So that also was collapsed the company, and they had to make concessions again about that.
Oh, sure. Hence comes machinery, so hence goes some jobs then too. So, right, which was not as good back then either, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, the idea was it was piecework.
Yeah.
And you could make $4 per hour using the conveyor system. Something's got to give. It can't be the same rate.
Oh, sure. But yeah, I mean that's also interesting as that aspect goes for the aspect of with them having the aspect of the dolls and keeping that in business up until early 1960s, you said?
Well, 1960 is when they moved out of Trenton. Again, it was the labor cost issue.
Okay.
So again, the factory closed, and the employees at one point wanted to buy the factory. However, that deal fell through, and the factory did close and moved to South Carolina, where it was non-unionized.
Okay.
And they were there successfully for a number of years, but what happened was the toy industry, or the doll industry, the manufacturing immigrated to the Orient.
Okay.
And Horseman was one of the last doll companies in the United States to still make dolls in the U.S. And that was causing them to be more expensive. And then there was another problem was where Horseman really didn't advertise their dolls on TV at that point, where all the other doll companies were advertising dolls on TV. And as you know, prior to Christmas, there's a lot of commercials trying to push kids' toys for Christmas. And because of that, the Americans did not see the Horseman dolls on TV, and saw the other company's dolls, and that's what they wanted for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
So that also helped them lose money, and eventually put them out of business altogether.
Yeah.
Today, the Horseman name is still in existence.
Okay.
But it's in it's in California.
Okay.
And the Redwood City, California, and it's really a web company as well as an agent company for companies in the U.S. that need overseas production sourcing.
Oh, okay.
So it has really no ties to the game toy doll industry at all.
Oh my goodness gracious, yeah. So and did I hear that the factory is still there? That's still standing?
The factory is still standing in Trenton. It was used for a furniture outlet.
But amazing that factory's still there in Trenton. So yeah, just amazing that with it's still there. So that's a part of history anyway.
I believe one of the textile clothing companies in Trenton also had an outlet store there. However, now it's been vacant for a number of years and falling into disrepair.
Oh, I'm sure.
But the building is still standing.
Boy, wouldn't that be a nice sight to go visit that and take a look and
there are people who do go into abandoned buildings and take photos and so forth, and you can find some
whenever they decided to discontinue the rackets, it was actually some of the E I Horsman rackets were made by Narragansett Machine Company there, and so and E I Horsman actually did 18. They were in 1877. They were importer and a dealer of the tennis sets. Where you'd have the net and the rackets and the ball all together. As they had a little article in 1877 with the Brooklyn Croquet Association too. But with that, it's just so amazing that how it kind of went from rackets to the rest of the story that a lot of people just didn't know, which is really kind of an interesting aspect of this whole thing, because hearing the rest of the story, not only with the tennis rackets, but then the dolls that they made also later on, which really makes it so interesting in itself too.
Yeah, another part of the Horsman story was, as you probably know, that during World War II, a lot of the companies in the U.S. stopped making whatever product they were making to help with the war effort. So a number of the technicians at Horsman got involved with the vinyl process for prosthetics. And as a result of that, after the war, Horsman was one of the first companies to use vinyl, to make vinyl limbs and legs for their dolls.
Oh, okay.
They had a leg up on it. So
leg up.
For the war effort.
They had kind of a leg up on it. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, kind of fun.
Well,
not knowing anything about tennis rackets, how prevalent were the Horsman rackets? Where did they fall within range? What was going on with that in the other industry?
Well, you had the E I Horsman that was making them early, and they were one of the earliest manufacturers of tennis rackets back then. As far as that goes for rackets, you had A.J. Spalding back then. You had the Wilson Company, but they were a little later than what E I Horsman. E I Horsman being one of the earliest that made tennis rackets back then, which was interesting in itself to learn, from that aspect of it too. How do you know anything about how the E I Horsman symbol, the half horse, half human, came about with that? Or do you know?
No, I do not. It's an interesting symbol, very representative. It's a half man, half horse.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense, the symbol.
Yeah,
I don't know when that came about.
Yeah, I wish I could have. I tried to do a little something, and I just couldn't find anything on it. But it's still an interesting aspect of having that symbol for E I Horsman. So maybe that's kind of why he kind of has his symbol and has the horse part of it too. So maybe that's why. Who knows? But this has just been so fascinating to learn the aspect of what happened and the doll manufacturing part of it too, coinciding with the tennis rackets, plus then went into the dolls, and hence the rest of the story with the E I Horsman then too, that you were so gracious to take your time out and give this interview to me with my tennis volley doc.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It was a pleasure to also learn about the tennis racket business.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of fun to kind of learn a little bit of both about everything then too.
So the Trent City Museum, if you were to Google that online, on the website you will find more information about Horsman that's been gathered there, or the exhibits that have been still held on the website.
Oh, that's
so
all.
There's more information there about the history of Horsman, photos of dolls, etc.
Okay.
The exhibit.
All right.
So that would be very interesting for people to learn more.
Oh, absolutely. If they want to learn more about the dolls and look into it, share a plethora of history behind that, which is you got to keep the history alive. That's
exactly.
You just got to keep it there, and that's why I do what I do with my rackets and the racket of the day that I have for showing one of my rackets that I have and stuff. So I so appreciate you taking the time out of your day to have this interview with me, Karl, and I so appreciate it to have you on Tennis Volley Talk with me.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
All right.
Take care.
You have a nice day.
Well, that was a very interesting interview with Karl with E I Horsman, and finding out about the dolls and the rest of the story behind that. So it was very good to learn a little bit more history on that with E I Horsman. But now with that too, you YouTubers, if you you're going to see Racket of the Day, but also be sure and subscribe and like and comment. Let me know what you like about it. If you like the phone interviews, if you with the Racket of the Day or anything like that. You podcasters, you're going to hear about the Racket of the Day. So if you want to take a look at the Racket of the Day, go to my YouTube channel, Tennis Volley Talk, and you can get to see what I'm talking about here with the Racket of the Day, but also make comment and like and subscribe, both YouTubers and podcasters. But here, the Racket of the Day here, it's called a Wright Ditson. It's made by Wright Ditson. It does not have what kind of racket it is, but it is all painted green. That's the color that they used for it when it came out brand new. There's a little symbol of the Wright Ditson there, and so that's the symbol of the Wright Ditson right there. That's an old symbol, probably in the 30s, 40s symbol of Wright Ditson. And here it says Wright WD, and then right underneath it's cursive writing that says Wright Ditson there. So that's where the little ribbons used to be to go around this. Not really sure what kind of wood it is, but you're probably looking at a racket in probably about the early and still strung really good. It's a nylon string is what it is. They last forever. They hardly ever wear out. So it's strung very tight still. So as you can hear, it being that it's strung very tight. So yeah, very good racket still, very straight racket. And I would say probably with this racket, it's around in the it's probably in the 40s to maybe mid 50s is when this racket was made. So you YouTubers, you're taking a look at it, and I hope you like the Racket of the Day. Just be sure and subscribe, like, and make a comment, and let me know if you do like the Racket of the Day, and if you like the over the phone interviews. I do like doing those. So you podcasters, if you want to take a look at the racket that I'm talking about, very nice color green on it though too. So, but if you podcasters want to take a look at the racket, just go to my YouTube channel, Tennis Volley Talk. So with that in mind, that is the Racket of the Day for you. With that too, you could still probably hit with this racket too, still. So, with that, it's really kind of an interesting design right there on it too, but I'm not sure what that design is. It might be like a tennis ball with the flames. I don't know. I'm not really sure exactly. I can't really make out the name of the racket. It's let's see, Snappress or something like that. But I can't really make it out. It's a little bit too scratched up to make anything of it there. So anyway, with that, that is the Racket of the Day, and I hope you do like that. And then, I thank you for letting me have this time with you today. And then you guys, if you're in warmer climates and you're outside playing already, that's good. Keep on doing it. And for us that are inside, we'll keep on playing inside until the summer circuit happens for us to play outside. So with that, everybody have a good week. And thank you very much for listening to me today.